You are listening to the ERP, Organizational Change Journal, a podcast brought to you by Nestle and Associates.
And, we know that innovation, creativity, and learning promotes organizational performance and also organizational agility. And we know that leadership and organizational agility is a critical influence for organizational success and ultimate survival. So how does a leader integrate agility into their organizational culture? So kind of taking that step from the last question regarding innovation and learning, how does that promote agility? And then how does a leader integrate that agility into their organizational culture?
So I'm going to go back to a definition and say, for me, often we change culture by making explicit the agreements about how we work together. And so it is having agreements about things like, where do ideas come from? Codifying processes so that people have a way to make recommendations about changes. I met with a group of clients 2 days ago, and one of their questions was specifically, how do we promote innovation? And so now the senior executive team in each weekly meeting will address the recommendations that have come from their organization. But then the question is, how do you get people in the organization to make recommendations? So, and how do you vet them so the senior team isn't equally looking at complaints about the toilet paper quality and some big process change? So I think there's a balance looking at these. To me, the leadership qualities bake in agility. If I am taking the mind of a scientist, if I have a decision process that allows me to move forward with experiments rather than having consensus, and that's a big one in the organizational agreements. So if we as a group of leaders can say, okay, I don't necessarily agree with you, but we don't have a better solution. We're going to go do an experiment, and then we're going to come back together and reevaluate. That significantly accelerates the agility and the pace that we're able to move forward. So I've got a lot more room to function, and it is through agreements. And every leadership team I've worked with where we introduce this kind of, we agree to experiment and then we agree to make a final decision, it significantly accelerates the learning process and just the speed to results.
And doesn't that also promote the acceptance of failure, or at least managing failure? Because the more agile you are and the more you improve your pace to be agile, you're probably going to fail more, right? The more you experiment, I should say, you're going to encounter failure. Aren't you essentially, by that process that you've discussed, where you take this mindset of a scientist, you move forward with experiment and experimentation, that definitely improves agility and the pace in which you move forward. But at the same time, it allows you to be innovative and creative and fail, and then learn from those failures, and you accept those failures and learn from them.
And so I'm taking slight exception to the word failure, because good scientists don't fail a lot.
Well said.
They will be directionally correct, not perfect. Yeah. And the other is, again, this mindset. So I worked with a researcher in, I'm going to get the name wrong, so I'll say in hearing, and she's a hardcore researcher. And she once made the observation that if my experiments prove that I'm completely off track, then the quicker I do those experiments and prove myself wrong, the quicker I can get about helping people hear better. So it is a really embracing of, I'm doing experiments to learn, because as soon as we start to call it failure when I'm not perfect, we're back to the old command and control. You have to be right or you're a loser.
Yeah.
And
great point.
The only biggest loser thing should be on weight loss.
Well said. That's such a great point.